Hello, everyone. Welcome. I think Rachel laughs every time because I do his hand gesture as well.
And we're always talking about things and then
Okay, let's do it.
And then all of a sudden she gets the clap and it's this beautiful, welcome. I do laugh every single time. It brightens my day, Bethany.
To the Little Things podcast. We didn't finish it.
Oh, there you go. Good job.
I'm Bethany Warner.
And I'm Scott Gunther.
No, thankfully.
Thankfully. I'm Rachel Hines. Yeah.
No boys today in our podcast.
Nope. One and done. Just kidding. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. Scott was wonderful.
He's fine.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be talking about Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
I know. Happy Mother's Day to you too.
Thank you. Today is the Thursday before Mother's Day, but this will probably come next week, right?
Probably. Unless we can be really fast. But, maybe it's a post-Mother's Day, a Mother's Day wrap-up.
Let's have it be a post-Mother's Day because
I really liked our podcast that's going to air today.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about technology and cell phones, and I thought that was a good one. So, yeah, post-Mother's Day, it'll be good.
I was going to say, because we don't want to ruin anyone's Mother's Day with this podcast.
Maybe this will actually redeem some Mother's Days that are going to come up.
Maybe.
So funny, because as you were texting, I got a text, should we talk about Mother's Day? And I was like, oh, crud. What are we doing? I thought, I bet at some point Bethany and I decided to put on some event on Mother's Day. And I was racking my brain trying to figure out what I had agreed to and what we were doing for Mother's Day. But it was the podcast.
Yeah. So she texted, what was it?
Yeah.
I mean the podcast. But I should have said,
remember?
You're
going to watch Daniel.
Yeah, you're going to give me all these gifts. And
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I didn't even remember that was Mother's Day coming up. I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do anything for your mother?
For my mother, yes. But it's really hard because I love my mother and I think my mother, I don't ever call her my mother. I love my mom. Mm-hmm. I think she's just an amazing mom, amazing grandma, and she's just an amazing person. But I'm also really trying to not do those just gifts for gifts that she doesn't want to store. And so I always try to think of different things. And my mom's birthday is at the end of May. Mm-hmm. So it just so happens she's going to be here in May. So it'll be kind of fun where we can go out in a girl's day or send her and Jazz out and something like that. So that's kind of fun to do to honor her that way. But I don't know. I'm tricky with gifts.
So don't you have to do all these Mother's Day stuff with these small children, or the teachers pretty much take care of it?
So the teachers are great. They come up with so many great ideas. And what I love about early childhood is it's all like those fun things. Like my favorite, of course, is the poems or the things that the kiddos fill in the blanks.
Yes.
So it's their own words. And that, oh my goodness, every one of my kids that did something like that, that's in the box. Mm-hmm. The other things, maybe it didn't make it, but because it's their words and it's so precious. And this is when we get out the handprint art and all those kind of things that are just sweet. There are lots. Okay, this is going to come out after Mother's Day, so I can say it. I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to ruin anything. But there's lots of plants that are going home, as the kiddos have planted seeds. And so it becomes a gift for mom, but also an experience for them when they're at school and something that they literally did with their own hands. So
that's fun.
I love it. And the teachers are so creative. I was just looking, Julie Guyton and Kylie Bangert made the cutest little card thing to go home, but it was this bouquet of flowers. It was beautiful, this picture, and then their little handprints, and then this cute little saying, and then pictures on the back, and all that sweet stuff that just as a mom, it just brightens your day. And
the little hands and the little feet.
I know. All that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Do you celebrate your mom? Of course. I mean, I know you do.
Yes and no.
Really?
Well,
and your eyes. See, this is when I kind of wish we were visual, because I'm like, there's a story to tell here. Because look at Bethany's eyes. It's
because I have a really complicated relationship with Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And I failed at it many years.
Sure.
Because I did experience infertility for 9 years, which is a really long time.
That is a long time.
And Mother's Day is approaching now. And I don't know, Mother's Day was such a trigger for me, or it's just an awful day. I couldn't do it.
Well, when it's a day celebrating moms and you want nothing more than to be a mom and it's not happening.
So I feel I've apologized many times to both my mom and Michael's mom because we just couldn't do anything. We would often just kind of hide away that weekend. My mother wants nothing more than just a card. She says it all the time. I'm like, oh, I know. So this year I'm getting her a card. I'm going to write something really sweet.
That's
amazing. And we're going to go to her house on Monday or Sunday rather.
And celebrate. Well, because as moms, you know that even though you weren't able to celebrate during that time, her thoughts were not on her during that. I'm sure it was on loving her daughter and probably knowing your mom. And well, I don't know your mom, even though I really want to, Aunt Betsy, but knowing what I've heard about them, they probably spent a lot of that day just praying for you too and loving you.
Yeah, they're very kind. There was one Mother's Day when we were in the thick of it that me and Mom went up to see Rachel in Minnesota, my sister. And we didn't do anything Mother's Day related, but we just spent the whole day together. We played games and it was just the most fun weekend because we were just
it's a together day.
Disconnected from everything. Because that is a day I would totally not be on the internet, not on social media. I would often skip church.
Yeah.
Church was the worst place. I don't even want to go to church this Sunday. And I have a baby. Like and I'm a church goer. I go every Sunday.
Same.
It's more common for me to go to 2 services than not one service, you know?
Yeah.
I just couldn't, I don't know. I couldn't do it.
Where it's just.
And I'm probably one who would say, let's not mention it even in church. But I don't know if that's the right answer either. But I know I could never go, which I don't think we should have church services that alienate people. But
yeah. Well,
it's such a good thing to celebrate mothers.
But it's so hard when that's so real and so a part of you when that's it's something that you're going through. Do you care? Do you mind sharing a little bit about your journey? Like what led up to that feeling about Mother's Day?
Yeah. So we got married in 2013.
Sure.
And we lived in Louisville, Kentucky for a year. And then we moved to Lincoln and I was part-time. You know, we moved here because Michael's job. And, I was working part-time at Messiah and we're like, this would be the perfect time to have a baby. And it was so exciting and it didn't happen. And they don't really take you seriously for about a year of trying to conceive. Yeah. I went in like after 6 months and they're like, man, come back. Because I was still young. I was like 26.
Sure.
And then stuff happened. Like I have ovarian cysts and I have, they later figured out I have endometriosis and then for a while it was just unexplained. I had different surgery, little laparoscopic surgeries, for a couple years. And then I think maybe in 2018 or so, I was like, I got to take a break because this is a lot. I was probably 2017 because my anxiety was so high.
Sure.
And
that's 3 years.
Yeah, this
of
is like a long time.
At that point. Yeah.
I remember maybe around year 2 or so, I met with a woman from church who experienced 7 years of infertility. And she's a lovely woman from my Bible study. And I sat with her in a coffee shop and she told me her story and she's so loving and kind. Well, okay, I'll go back to that. But I just remember listening to her and be like, 7 years would kill me. Yeah. I don't know how you could do that. And it didn't kill me. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
So at first you don't tell anybody. We didn't tell anyone. I think I probably told my mom first, but didn't tell. You don't want to tell anyone because you want it to be gone next month.
Yep.
I don't want to tell anyone because maybe I'll get pregnant next month.
And I won't have to tell anyone.
Yeah. But for me, infertility, I work in children's ministry and I am surrounded by moms and babies and children. And I love children.
Yeah.
Like if you know me, I'm the best aunt ever.
You are.
I am I had so many nieces and nephews at the time. My sister-in-law has 5 kids, and she was giving birth during all this.
Yeah.
And my, so we have like 9 nieces and nephews that we're close to. And
Did you almost say grandkids?
I almost did. I have 0 grandkids. Anyways, I love kids. I'm very pro kids. I'm super fun.
You are super fun. And you're the best Barbie player ever.
I have few talents.
Yeah.
But playing
my goodness.
games with children is one of my things.
You have many talents, and that's just one of your many talents.
So it was hard because I felt like the one thing that I was created for, the one thing I could be really good at, I could not be.
Sure.
And everybody else could be. And that was awful. And so it was a lot of identity crisis of, well, then who am I even?
Sure.
What is my value? Where do I fit in? Because you don't really fit in anywhere. For me, in my context, because everyone I knew had kids, everyone I knew through the church, a church like Messiah especially, very pro-children family. I do children and family ministry.
Yeah.
Everyone is literally a kid or a parent. The best thing I did was join a women's Bible study with women who are older than me.
Oh,
I was in a Bible study with my peers, lovely people, loved all of them. All of them were having babies. And they were all the same age. Which I'm not blaming them at all because they're amazing people and I love them to this day. But they weren't able to give me the perspective that these women did.
Right.
So the women in my Bible study were like 10 to 15 years older than me. And they were all moms as well. And they had been through stuff. Maybe not infertility, but life.
Yep.
And were at a different place in their life where they could share more and talk about that more. So they were the first people I opened up to as well. And that was such a blessing. I mean, they walked with me for years through it.
Well, and to know that you have that group that's praying for you, not only to become a mother, but also for God to comfort you and give you peace in a time that you don't feel peace because you feel so conflicted.
You mentioned Julie Guyton earlier.
Yeah.
She was in my Bible study. She had this long-lasting prayer request, and I had this. And we were talking, and we're both fatigued of praying. I mean, I got to a point, I can't pray for this anymore. I'm heartbroken, and I don't know. I can't do it. And so she said, I will pray for you, and you pray for me. And we will lean on each other,
And just be partners in that way.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Yeah, and just know I don't have to carry this by myself. Because I so felt that before. You tell anyone, it's just like, okay, I'm going to Bunko tonight and I'm going to have fun and I'm carrying this weight. I'm carrying this cloud and people are going to ask. People do ask, especially people in the church because.
Yeah.
And when you're a church worker, people feel like they know you better than they do.
Yeah.
So sometimes they ask questions that maybe aren't super, I don't know.
Gentle. Yeah. Well, and when you care, you care and oh,
yeah.
How is it going? Not always. I'm definitely guilty of that in so many ways, but it just out of oh, I'm so excited for what I know is going to happen for them or what I'm praying, but
well, and
maybe
we were young.
Think about myself before I think about the person I'm asking a question. Yeah.
We were young and we were married for 4 or 5 years now. Why don't you have kids? When are you guys going to have kids? And they knew I love kids, obviously. And I would always just say, oh, whenever God's timing is perfect, we're just trusting the Lord, hoping they'd pick up on the hints.
I think I'm taking that back, Scott Gunther.
You got Scott a coffee too?
I did. And he just gave a look I don't appreciate that, but
I'll drink it.
Oh, never mind. You're forgiven. Oh.
Scott, we're talking about girl stuff.
I used to talk about girl stuff all the time because I was a biology teacher and health and anatomy.
Periods.
Yeah, I talk
Fallopian tubes.
themselves.
First of all, you could not survive one day of my life.
I think this is true.
I muted your.
I am now live on the mic since they harassed me when I walked in.
See, this will be our lightning of the.
We seriously started this podcast with "Thank God Scott's not here today." Am I right?
No, and this is more of
I introduced myself as Scott Gunther.
Remember last week when you're like, I didn't know that about you. Well, I taught biology and human anatomy and physiology for 15 years. I even taught a girls' health class to ninth grade girls a whole semester. And they, of course, you have the girls that try to embarrass you. And I am not embarrassable. And so,
Tampons. Period.
Moist. There, that's always the word.
Cervical mucus.
Right. I taught them about that stuff, actually.
I love cervical mucus.
Yeah,
Yeast
I know all about
infection.
that. Yeast infections, absolutely.
First of all, you don't know the first thing about a yeast infection.
It's nothing like getting kicked in the groin, I'll tell you that. That is the ultimate pain. All guys know that. And what you women go through.
So we're doing a Mother's Day podcast, and now all the moms that are listening are like, Scott Gunther is on our list.
Oh yeah.
Trust me, I'm on my wife's naughty list and my mom's naughty list. I'm on all the lists.
all the good.
But I will step away and enjoy. Thank you for the drink, Rachel. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And you guys can have your conversation and not worry about embarrassing me, because there's nothing you can say that will embarrass me.
I think we have a new goal in life, Bethany.
I'm just trying to think. It is, which is amazing. Anyways, what were we talking about?
We're talking about infertility.
We are.
But having those partners and having people ask you those questions, like that expectation of, you've been,
which is such an innocent question.
It is.
But you should probably never ask it.
Well, and I know we've had this talk for many years, just being really honest with each other, because I get so excited for people. And I think I told you the story about really innocently in my mind, but really being self-centered as I've gained wisdom, right? There was a jazzercise instructor I had just barely met when we moved to Lincoln, and she got married. And I said, I didn't know her well. And so I was awkward. And so instead of just saying congratulations and leaving it at that, I said something like, when will you guys have a baby next? Or something stupid. I mean, honestly, I can say it now and it makes me feel hot and like I'm going to have another hot flash talking about it, because I was like, oh, Rachel, that was so dumb. 30-year-old girl. Mm-hmm. And she said, I don't know that we will have children. And I still to this day don't know they don't have children. And I don't know if that was just a choice and all I think is, oh my gosh, maybe this is something that she knew that wasn't going to be, and a really, really sore spot. And I don't know.
Yeah. But I grew a thick skin and could handle a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But the worst one was this man at church, which I feel like most of my stories start with. The worst one was this man at church. I knew his wife, but I don't know him that well.
Sure.
But he's like, so when are you guys going to have kids? And I gave my, in the Lord's timing, we never know. And he said, so you're not on birth control?
Oh my.
Excuse me. It was not your husband.
I was going to say it better.
I don't know how to answer that question. So please stop talking to me.
Okay, now you just go in and you imagine the drive home from church when he and wife were probably talking.
His wife would be mortified.
And hey, I talked to Bethany today.
It's casually brought up her contraception and, what?
Oh, goodness.
People are funny. So just maybe don't say anything, and that's okay. You know what, though? Not saying anything is good. Mm-hmm. Because also sometimes saying things can bring up stuff that I don't want to talk about right now. Or I don't know.
I'm a firm believer that we all have the best of intentions. Mm-hmm. And I know many, not just with this topic, but with many topics, I always have good intentions. And we were just talking before we started recording about both being verbal processors. So I like to talk everything out. And so I'll many times I'll have a great intention of, for me, it would feel better just to have somebody to vomit everything to. But that's not the case for a lot of people. And I think with maturity and gaining wisdom comes the knowledge that sometimes it's better to let somebody else open up a conversation if it's something sensitive, or maybe it could be sensitive. Maybe we don't even have to dip in to find out if it is a sensitive subject. Like if we don't know that answer, if we don't know that person well, let's maybe just avoid it.
Yeah. Or dip your toe and then tread lightly.
Yeah.
Or, cause I'm aware of things that I would not have been aware of before. And a few years ago, I was just getting senses of this woman, and I just sent her a text and said, hey, this is what I've observed. Maybe if this is not what's going on, totally ignore this message and we never have to talk about it again.
Yeah.
But if this is, know that I have been there and you can talk to me, and nothing you say will surprise me. And she sent back this long reply of, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
And I said, I will never talk to you about this to you in person, but you can talk to me, but also we don't have to, because it is I just remember, maybe this sounds terrible, but okay. So after a while, we told a lot of people. We talked about it in church.
You did. Which
Sometimes
was
I'm like, why did we do
brave.
that?
That was, I don't know. I
don't know either. But we shared our story.
Yeah.
So then everybody knew, which then I knew before sharing that story, like, okay, we're going to get twice or 10 times as many comments, and
Questions.
everybody knows our business.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay. I'm a pretty open book. But then, sometimes, okay, you can ask me questions, but this is more beneficial for you than for me,
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So time and place is important. And just knowing maybe this person's going through this and I don't have to be the person that they talk to about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which is because we're really kind of self-centered. Like no matter how little we want to be, we are. And so we think we're doing something great, and maybe it's to make ourselves feel great because we just reached out to that poor Bethany,
Poor Bethany.
Yeah.
That's totally how I felt, was poor Bethany sometimes.
But
which is fine. We went through, so then we were contacted through our church by a family in the congregation to kind of foster their grandchild. And we started that whole process. And that was amazing. 2 weeks before that conversation happened, we went to Lutheran Family Heritage to look into adoption, which I was excited about, but really the whole thing is very daunting because there are so few babies to adopt.
Yeah.
And they're like, we accept this many people in the program. I think it was like 20 maybe.
Wow.
But we have so many more applications. And last year we only had 3 babies. So it's like, oh my gosh.
Well, and when you've had so much that you've been carrying with infertility, and then to put more on when you're already overwhelmed, it's a lot.
It is a lot. Mm-hmm. Infertility, everything is a lot. Every decision is emotional. And when I talk about infertility, it's because that's what I know. I am not saying this is the worst thing people go through. I know everyone is going through hard things.
But this is a hard thing.
This was something I experienced, so I can speak from it.
Yep.
Maybe what I'm talking about looks different from you, but you've had similar feelings and that isolation and that despair kind of. But every decision is hard. Okay, we tried an IUI and that didn't work. We're going to do another one.
What's that?
IUI, insemination.
Oh, gotcha.
Like how they get cows pregnant.
Gotcha.
That's how I felt. So that didn't work. We're going to do it again. And then I was full of cysts again and they're like, well, you probably have to have a surgery before you do it again. Oh my gosh, everything is like expensive and hard. And I had to take a break. That's when we took a break. Yep. Anyways, then we met this little girl, and I've referenced her before on the podcast, and just again, not giving a lot of detail, but she lived with us. The adoption didn't happen. And we are still connected with her today. And we're so thankful she's in our life and we love her like family. So we have little Daniel David. He is an embryo adoption. Embryo adoption is, people go through IVF. You have your babies. You have these embryos. What do you do with them? They can be discarded. They could be used for science. I believe life begins at conception. What would you do with those embryos so you can donate them? So after, our hearts were broken in 2021, I kind of came to the point of, I want to have a baby that no one can take away from me. I need to do this. And I applied. I think I applied before I told Michael.
Really?
Yeah. And then he's good. He's so kind to me. And obviously was on board. And I think we had talked about it before, but I didn't say we're applying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we went through that. We worked through this organization in Tennessee, Knoxville, and it's a Christian organization. They're lovely people. You have a database of donors to choose from. You have their medical information, and some of them had likes and dislikes. And then of course the embryo information.
Are you willing to share how you selected?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it could be so overwhelming.
Sure.
So we're like, you can look at their medical history, but we're like, you can pick the most healthy on paper. We have no control over that. And you can look at people and say, oh, heart disease or diabetes or anxiety, depression. And we're like, well, we have we have stuff like that in our family too. So I'm not going to concern myself with that.
Right.
So we like to spend time on the likes and dislikes. That was just kind of funny. And we found this profile that just really stuck out to us. And her favorite movie was Parent Trap, and his favorite food was pot roast. And we were like, we love both of those things. Let's choose them. Yeah. And we did, and they actually ended up being in Nebraska. They're about an hour away from us.
That's just God, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has to be. Yeah.
So we chose to do an open adoption. So we know them, and we have contacted them. Their story is pretty wild, that she actually was diagnosed with a cancer and so was able to have her daughters and then was unable to use the rest of the embryos. And so they donated them. And so they love Daniel so much and just view him as such a miracle, because it's pretty amazing.
It is. All of it is amazing.
Yeah. We've met them 3 times since Daniel was born. And Michael and I just drove away last time thinking they're just the best people to be paired with, because they are so kind and respectful. Like, they don't say things that make us uncomfortable or,
Sure.
They're just so happy for Daniel and for us. And I don't know. It's wonderful.
And we have more of an extended family yet again.
Yeah. We have a big family. Big family of people that are not blood related to us. Yeah. They're Christians. It's like weird connections. Like, he's also one of them is from Iowa and one of them is from Minnesota, which is the same as us. It's just funny. And they're like people you feel like your whole life. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty wild. What else were we talking about? That's Daniel.
Picking that family and waiting to see if they pick you back.
Yep. So then they have to pick you back. It was about a year process with everything before we could do the transfer. And thankfully we got Daniel on the first transfer, and we're so thankful. And he's just a little dreamboat. And everyone says how much he looks like Michael. And sometimes I say, well, actually he's an embryo adoption. Sometimes I just smile and nod and say, yep, I know. Okay.
But looking,
he does kind of look like Daniel or Michael.
Maybe that's it. Maybe Michael looks like Daniel, but maybe I feel like maybe the hair. You guys both have such great hair, and he has great hair.
He has ridiculous hair.
It's so fabulous, but everything about him is just fabulous.
He's pretty cute. We like him. Yeah.
But what a journey. So from the time that you started trying until Daniel was born, how many years was that?
It was 9 years.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of years.
Yeah. We had Daniel like 2 months before. Yeah. Wait, 8 or 9 years, I guess. Because it was right before our 10th anniversary that he was born. and we started trying second year of marriage. So it's like a lot of our marriage.
That's a lot.
Which is intense too.
Yeah.
Because people grieve differently. It's pretty wild. I carried the load, Michael would admit, for a lot of it because it's my body and
Right.
and I experienced it so personally. And I think men can compartmentalize and men are waffles, women are spaghetti.
Yeah.
They have the compartments, spaghetti, everything touches everything.
Mm-hmm.
I totally believe that's true. My
Yeah.
infertility touched every part of my life. And I couldn't shut it off, or I carried it with me everywhere.
And I believe that we get our identity from different places. Yeah. And men are just different. Yeah.
So it wasn't till we went through the foster stuff and the adoption stuff that Michael really felt the heart pain and that's when he really grieved and was heartbroken.
Yeah.
So there have been times in our marriage where I've cried on his chest and he's cried on me,
Yeah.
which is why we're married.
Yeah.
We need each other. But we've gone to counseling for it. We went to equestrian therapy once.
Really?
With horses. Yeah. I don't know. I think we learned it through my doctor. She gave me a pamphlet on it, and it's north of Lincoln. And it was just of other infertility couples were there as well. And we did a lot of communication exercises and stuff. It was so good for us.
Really?
Yeah, it was really positive. But we had to be intentional on talking about it because it's so easy not to, especially when I was carrying it all and he was doing the very best that he could without fully understanding because he couldn't. And I knew that. I never was resentful towards him. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. And
I leaned a lot on him, but I also had to lean a lot on other people too, because he's a man and he doesn't really understand,
That's different. Well, and I think even you and I could be grieving over the same type of loss or whatever it is. And we're both going to grieve differently, and then sometimes I know that I can even have somebody that says all the things I think I want them to say, and it still doesn't fix it. So it feels so icky.
Right.
And
Well, and couples who grieve, whether a loss of a child, that's horrific, or anything, the divorce rate goes high.
Yeah.
Because you always grieve separate. People grieve individually.
Mm-hmm.
And we were intentional. We had lots of conversations of we need to make sure we lean into each other and not away from each other, because it's a lot easier to lean away from each other.
Absolutely.
And just give each other grace and space, grace and a space to be wherever you're at right now.
Yeah.
But it was intense.
How did you, when your faith was, because that's hard. We know God is good all the time God is good. And sometimes it's easy to say that and believe that with our words and our brain when things are going the way we want them to go. Mm-hmm. But something like this that is just so down to the core of you.
Yeah. I might burp is why I said that. Excuse me.
Down to your core.
I think I'm okay.
Is this going to make Scott uncomfortable? Nope.
Darn it. Okay, so I have a theology degree from Concordia, and I've been a nerd since I was little, where I always loved going to church. I love all the stuff. Mm-hmm. I loved confirmation. I loved memorizing everything. I just wanted to be a church where I love it, and I do love it, and I loved my theology classes and doctrine and studying everything. And I think especially this is common for all young people, right? When you're 22, you know everything.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I was very confident in my faith and in my knowledge and everything. And I had no real life experience for that to
to be tested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really had a very charmed, happy, happy childhood. Very thankful for a lot of things. I always did everything right. I've followed the rules. I've never you know.
Yeah.
So then when this didn't happen, even though I can cognitively know, like, oh, I don't want to question God, or I know God is in control and I know he loves me and I know all those things, but man, I felt it in my, like, why?
Yeah.
Why is this happening to me? What did I do wrong? Which I don't believe that's a thing, but I felt it.
Yeah.
I know these were not any of the right questions or right, things to think, but I did. I felt all of them. Where is God? Is he not listening to my prayers? What lesson do I need to learn? And then I'll fix this and we can move on, you know? Like, okay, maybe that was it. And now, or, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. Why did I, all of the things. That was really hard. So working through that, which I can think of like specific sermons or specific conversations I've had that really God was loving me through all of that and growing me a lot. Sometimes I think if I had gotten pregnant right away, I'd probably be kind of an insufferable person. Like, I think I would, you get everything you want right when you have it and everything
I find
is
that
perfect.
hard to believe, but
well, if you just did things like me, because I did them all right. So it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want to say that I've learned this lesson because I don't want to, ask God to trial me. But I do feel like if I know anything, it is that I have no control over anything.
Yeah.
Like I going through the infertility and trying everything and trying this and this and this. And we never did IVF. But we tried everything else. And I tried different things with my diet. And I went to a physical therapist and I did as much as I could.
Yeah.
I can't control anything.
Yeah.
I had a doctor once explain it to me of like, we can do this. We can make your body absolutely perfect and ready. And we can do this, and make the embryo perfect and ready. And we can't control what happens. There's a part where, and he didn't say, but I think I said in the meeting, and that's God. Like every life that is here is an absolute miracle.
It is.
Because everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I remember just praying. I think that was hard in my relationship with God. It's like, you could do this. You could do this in a second. I know you could. You breathe life. You speak life into being. And why aren't you doing this now? And I fully believe, we will not know and all the answers, and it's probably none of my business. But I can say with confidence, we were supposed to have a Daniel, and we're supposed to have this little girl in our life. Yeah. And if I had gotten pregnant right away, we wouldn't have either of those precious babies that we're supposed to have. Yeah. Now that's hindsight 2020, which is great, but going through it was really hard. And I've shared the story. I have a tattoo on my arm that says "still true," because that was kind of my mantra through all the infertility and all the stuff was I had to come to a place where even if this never happened, if I never got pregnant, I have to know that God's promises are still true for me. His love is still true. His presence in my life and his sovereignty, his purpose, like all of those things, that is still true for me, even if I don't get exactly what I want, what I think is best. Yeah. It's still good. And that took a long time to get there. I remember going to church at my dad's church and hearing a sermon about my grace is sufficient for you. And just thinking, what if that's true? Yeah. What if it really is? Yeah. What if I don't need anything else? Yeah. And
do you feel like you ever came to a place in that journey before the little girl, before Daniel, where you ever got to that place of feeling, okay, I can be okay if this never happens?
I think I would have glimpses of that. Mm-hmm. I think, oh man, even just you asking that, I can feel in my gut.
Just churning.
Yeah, like just I want to cry. Yeah. Because I don't know. Yes and no, probably. Yep. You have those glimpses, but then still, I don't know. But that's why I got this tattoo.
Because it's that reminder.
Because the truth is, it's still true, even if I don't feel
even
it.
Even if you're not okay. Yep.
Even if I want to cry
yep.
and don't and feel far, I can look to my baptism and say, and
it's okay.
God came to me and calls me a child of God, and I can go to the altar and receive his body and blood, and he is coming to me even when I feel like he's a million miles away, you know?
Yeah. I just want to give you up. I know we've had lots of conversations for many years about this, and I know, like, I love my friend Bethany so much, and like, it breaks my heart to even think about you being in that much pain for so many years. And one of those, and I think it's a selfish thing. Like, I always go back to Friends episodes, but there's the episode, and I don't even remember what it was. And I think it was Phoebe or no, maybe it was Joey. Somebody said, there's no such thing as a good act. Like, everything has a selfish, like, it comes back, like, you know, to serve you more than serving the other person. But I know, like, when I see my friend Bethany, who I just think is just one of the most wonderful people in the whole world.
You're so kind to me.
Well, it's very true. But, or anybody, like, you just want to fix it. You know, you want to make it better. You can't, right? We're not God. We can't do that. But what were some, like, just some practical things, whether it's something somebody did for you or something they didn't, like, for those people that are, and again, like you said, everybody handles situations differently. But if they're people, I mean, I'm assuming probably, even if we only have a few listeners, there probably are a few that are like, we have a friend or a family member going through something like this right now.
Okay.
What?
Number one, this is all I wanted from people. If you're going to announce your pregnancy, just text me first. Don't put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Because obviously I love you and your baby, and I want to be so happy. And I am going to feel a lot of things.
Yep.
I hate that I felt that. I hated being happy and sad at the same time.
Yep.
And it just was a thing.
And it's part
and
of that
usually
process.
Once the baby was here, I was fine and I could love that baby so much, but the pregnancy was really hard for me and I couldn't do it. So just, hey,
heads up.
This is it. And then don't say it to my face so I have to react, or say it on the phone where I have to react, you know?
So you have that time to process.
Yeah. And then, well, Rachel gave me a lot of space in her house and on her couch to just cry. And I cried so much.
I thought you were talking about your sister, Rachel.
No, you.
No, but that's.
But I don't want to do that with everybody. You can't do that with everybody. So there are friends. Find your friend where you can go and just cry, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And then I also want to be able to see you in other times, and we don't talk about it all, and everything's great.
Yeah.
Because
just have that normal.
Also let me be happy and be myself.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I love children. So I loved playing with other people and being invited into people's families, and like letting me love your family is great. And, you know.
Yeah.
So including, but letting me be myself.
Sure.
And not
pressing the issue every single time.
Yeah. Because that doesn't define you.
Yep. We can care about somebody that's going through something really hard and not have to put it in their face. We can put it before God, right? We can, when we feel that calling to bring it up, we can bring it up to God rather than.
Yeah. I don't know what else. Just letting people be where they're at and how they are, I guess.
Yep. I had 2 friends years ago that had gone through infertility. And I just remember at this point, it was like, this is so dumb. This just kind of goes back to that 20-year-old Rachel, but that I was like, I guess I didn't even realize that was really a thing.
Infertility?
Yeah. Like, because for me, it was
1 in 8 people, or is it 1 in 6? I don't know.
I believe
way more than you think.
And so really just plain ignorance on my part, because I had a friend, very successful, and they had a daughter at that point who was the same age as our Maddie, and that, come to find out later, had been after lots and lots of years. But we found out we were pregnant with our Brady, and she said, "Rachel, I think you are a great person, but I need to tell you, I can't be your friend anymore." And I was like shocked, but and I just remember she was very kind about it. And she said, I can't be, I've learned that this is so hard on my heart, and the way that I just can't be around people that are pregnant or that have babies. And it's not, she's like, I enjoy you, but I just can't right now. And I was so grateful from somebody totally ignorant that somebody would say that. And like, number one, so she didn't just ghost me, but also to be able to like, okay, I need to understand that. And it was one of those like, wow, this is something really big for a lot of people. And then another friend who said every time, just kind of like you said, every time she'd see that pop up on Facebook, because Facebook was a thing by then, or people announced to a group that they were pregnant, she said it was just like being sucker punched, and that just complete and utter devastation. And things, if this hasn't been a challenge in your life that we don't really think about.
Yeah, I went, all of my siblings and in-laws' siblings had babies during that time. And a lot of friends, obviously, but then you just see, oh, they've had a second one. They've had a third one, and I haven't had a one. You know, we started at the same time. I could have an 8-year-old. I could have, you know, and no. And I don't know. I want to also encourage, okay, the best thing you can do too is pray so hard not to be bitter, because I didn't want to be bitter. Yeah. I love children, and I love my sister, and I love my sister-in-laws, and I didn't want that to hurt our relationship. Sure. And obviously I love my niece and nephews. Yeah. I just want to, but it hurts so bad. Yeah. But you have to pray so hard of like, oh, give me the strength. Yeah. And help me to look outside that grief, be outside of it. It's intense, though. It's not fun.
I love you so much, and I love that you're willing to, because this is hard. Even like you said, you sweet little Danny boy. No, I'm not. That's what my grandpa always called my dad, was Danny boy. I could never call my dad Danny boy. Yeah,
probably not.
but even at that, it's still real, and so grateful that you're willing to share your story and tell everybody. Because sometimes even. Obviously not something I've ever dealt with as far as infertility, but those things that hurt us, and to hear that you're not alone, even if the story doesn't sound the same, to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one that's gone through this or is going through this. And and I just feel like there's I'm part of a group that when it sometimes feels so lonely.
I think we just want to, it's easier to not share, and you just look inside, and you that is so not healthy. And when we did share in front of the church, so many people said, me too. Yeah. Or my sister, or so many people. And then it is I'm not alone. And it is they survived this too. And they're happy. Yeah. We can do this. It's so important, but I get I don't want to tell anyone, but it is good
to not keep it in.
Yeah.
Okay. So now all that heavy, tell me about your first Mother's Day last year. And we're coming up on your second Mother's Day. Uh-huh. I'm dying to hear this, because I have not heard the story. And again, we were talking about it before the show. And now, are you going to share? Or are you having second thoughts?
Oh, I can share. But I don't think it's funny. I don't know if it's funny. No, it is kind of funny. But I can laugh at it now. Yeah. But because it's so bad. It's like so bad. I talk about Michael. Michael's a wonderful husband.
And he's just a wonderful man. I was going to say kind. He is. Well, he is a wonderful husband, but I don't know him as a husband. But as a human, man. He's just fantastic.
We just went through this move. We moved into a new house. Before we moved, I'm the one who, we got to do this. We found this great house. Let's do it. And he's like, I don't think we can. Whoa. He was so cautious. And then we did it. And he was the rock. And I was a mess the whole time. Like, he takes care of me. He's very kind. I'm going to say that before I tell this story. So, like I said, Mother's Day was really hard for years.
Yeah.
So I don't think he really knew how to approach this first
Sure.
Mother's Day. And Daniel was born in March, so he's how many? 2 months old?
Yeah.
And then
Nobody sleeping through the night. Actually, you probably
we
were. Yeah. Rude.
absolutely. Daniel's an excellent
That
sleeper.
was your Mother's Day gift.
So my expectations were not high. I'm like, and I would talk to him beforehand of like, we should spend the day. We could go on a walk. We could do a picnic. We could do something fun together. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And a gift would be nice, but I don't expect extravagant gifts.
Sure.
You know, a gift of like a card, you know.
Yeah.
Oh my
A
god.
new car.
A new card. Just a diamond ring. Like, no. Expectations low. It was nice outside. Let's just spend the day outside. That's all I wanted. So I kind of was, what's going to happen? Just you wait. All day he was like, just you wait. Just you wait. We went to church together, which is also a quick funny side story, was we got our pictures taken in front of the balloon arch. That was the one and only time that I leaked. So the picture is so adorable. And then I have this huge, like, okay. Which is great. I love it. Went home. I don't think we did anything special for lunch. What? Are we going to do something? He just went out and mowed the yard. Daniel and I took a sweet little nap together. Okay, that's fine. Woke up.
What's going on?
Hey! He worked outside all day. He got tickets to a concert that night for himself. It was a They Might Be Giants concert. Do you know They Might Be Giants band?
I've heard the name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the band, but
They're silly. So I didn't know that, and I told him he could go, assuming we would do stuff that day.
yeah.
And all day he's like, just you wait, just you wait. So then before he left, I'm like, so what am I waiting for? He's like, well, your gift is coming. It's not here yet. I'm like, well, can you tell me what it is? Because we didn't do anything today. Like
This was a total letdown.
What is happening? And he's like, well, I got you a shirt. Like, okay, what? It's a Shaggy t-shirt. The Shaggy, he's a musical artist. Okay, do you know who Shaggy is?
Isn't he a Shaggy? Well, I do because he did jazz. We did lots of jazzercise routines with Shaggy.
Wasn't me. I mean, okay, I've seen Shaggy in concert twice, kind of accidentally. He's a great performing artist.
Yeah.
But why do I want a Shaggy t-shirt on a Mother's Day? Are you freaking kidding me?
So there wasn't even a good story behind it. It's not like you guys met at a Shaggy concert or your first dance was a Shaggy song.
No idea what he was thinking. I was so mad. That was it. And there was nothing. Like, this was my first Mother's Day. I've waited 9 years for this. And he basically left me alone the entire day. Was outside, and then he went to that concert. There was no gift.
But you got a Shaggy shirt.
I said, do not bring that into my house. I don't ever want to see it. He gave it to one of his high schoolers who wore it to our house when we moved. And I'm like, oh,
and you're like, I know where you got that shirt.
Yes.
I think that is a perfect first Mother's Day because then you know
Can
this
only
is
go
what-
up from here.
this is what to expect.
Yeah.
I've said for years, birthdays, Mother's Day, I just know, like Trevor and I rarely have big disagreements. If we're going to have one, it's going to happen on my birthday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or it's going to happen on Mother's Day. I don't know. There's just something about, unless you plan it for yourself, maybe that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We'll all band together and we'll plan our own Mother's Day.
We'll just take it away. I just was like, I feel like my expectations were not high.
Yeah.
They were so not high. I just wanted to spend time with you. Let's do something fun. Nope. Why on earth would I want a Shaggy t-shirt? Anyways.
I'm going to write a little note to myself and text Michael Warner.
Seriously. So we've talked about it this year, which I feel like we talked about it last year too. My expectations are very low. I don't have any expectations. we know what we're going to do. We're going to church. We're going to have a brunch here with people in town.
Nice.
And then we're going to go to my mom's house, and she's making a cake that I love, this tres leche cake.
It's going to be a good day.
And if other things happen, that's great. But
And
I have no expectations.
we're obviously having an event.
And Rachel's going to make me desserts. It's going to be great.
It's going to be a fabulous Mother's Day.
I feel like
It's too bad neither one of us do jazzercise anymore. We could do jazzercise on Mother's Day.
that would feel great.
Yeah.
I understand that Michael maybe didn't know what to do because it was such a confusing day for so many years. I swear, though, I was so mad at him.
He's going to redeem himself this year. I just feel it.
He called his sisters the next day, I think. Yeah. And she just like chewed him out. I'm like, what were you thinking? You could have done anything.
Boys, they sometimes, have I ever told you about mine and Trevor's first date?
Tell me.
Our first date was at a dance. There was like the college that we went to. They had a dance on not Valentine's Day, Halloween. I should have known. And we're there. He asked me to dance. We went. You know, it was going fine. The volleyball team was there, and several of them were in one of his classes. And so he introduced me as his neighbor.
Oh my gosh.
Not his date. And I thought, oh, well, this has been an interesting adventure, an experiment. This will never happen again. And he said the next day, all those girls that were there, like, you are so stupid. Why would you ever do something like that? He's like, I don't know.
That's hilarious.
And yet, look, he still got me.
And still, I know. We love him. I forgave him eventually. And it was probably some little bit of hormones too, but I don't know the last time I've been that mad at Michael. Like, I actually think I made him sleep on the couch. I've never done that my whole marriage. I was so mad when he came home from that concert. I was like, what? Oh my gosh, it was so bad.
Take you and your shaggy shirt and go to the couch.
Yep. We've never done that before. I think I did, but I can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
We still love each other. Yep.
You're still married, still going strong.
He is still a good
Lesson
husband.
learned.
We'll see what happens. So for Father's Day, I went over the top out of spite because, that's what I do. I bought him a record player. I got him this cute card from Daniel that was like, to my dad on my first Father's Day. It was like written like a little kid wrote it. And I did a bunch of stuff. And we spent the day together and like, see, this is what it could be.
This is how it's done.
Look how much we love you. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep, it's great. It's great. Poor Mikey. We'll see what happens this year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we're wishing or hoping that everyone had a great Mother's Day.
Yes.
And maybe there'll be new stories to tell.
Hopefully good stories. Okay. Thank you for listening. And we'll talk again next week. This has been a Messiah Lutheran Ministry production. Subscribe to Messiah Lutheran on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find our worship services and our Sermon Extra podcast by searching Messiah Lincoln on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you'd like to know more about Messiah Ministries, visit messiah.us. We'd love to hear from you as well, so please email us at littlethings@messiah.us.